The stars above the Varelian capital shimmered like silver dust scattered across endless darkness. Massive towers stretched toward the sky, glowing with advanced energy lines that showed the Empire's strength and pride. Every citizen believed their civilization stood above all others. They were fast, powerful, and guided by ancient traditions that shaped their identity for thousands of cycles. Among the ruling elite was Princess Kalis, known for her sharp intelligence and fierce combat skills. She grew up learning that strength defined worth. Victory brought honor, and weakness invited shame. Her instructors trained her to become a symbol of perfection, a future leader who would carry the Empire forward. She accepted these lessons without question. When news arrived that a human warrior had been invited to serve in the Imperial Guard, the court reacted with confusion. Humans were new to the wider galaxy. They lacked the technological elegance and biological advantages many alien species possessed. Some believed humans were brave but reckless, emotional instead of logical. Others saw them as unpredictable outsiders. Kalis heard the rumors during a training session and laughed openly. She imagined a fragile creature trying to survive among warriors who could move faster than sight and command weapons capable of reshaping battlefields. To her, the idea felt absurd. The day the human arrived, the palace gathered to watch. Nobles filled the grand hall, their armor reflecting the blue light of floating energy crystals. The doors opened slowly, revealing Commander Rowan. He did not look like a legend. His armor was practical rather than impressive. His posture was calm, almost relaxed, and his eyes moved carefully across the room as if studying everything without drawing attention to himself. Some nobles whispered in disappointment. They had expected something dramatic. Kalis stepped forward, her voice carrying easily across the hall. She greeted him with formal words, but her tone held a sharp edge. She questioned whether a human could truly understand the discipline required to serve the Empire. Rowan answered with quiet respect, never raising his voice. He did not react to her hidden insults. This made her more curious than angry. Training began the following morning. The Imperial Arena stretched across a wide platform, surrounded by observation balconies. Warriors practiced with advanced weapons, energy shields, and flight systems. Rowan watched carefully before joining any exercise. Instead of showing off, he asked questions. He asked about their tactics, their command structure, their training habits. Some warriors mocked him openly, believing he needed explanations because he could not keep up. Rowan listened without complaint. Kalis challenged him directly during a combat simulation. She activated her energy blade, moving faster than most observers could follow. The crowd expected the human to struggle immediately. Rowan did not rush forward. He stepped back, studying her movements. She attacked again and again, testing his reactions. He avoided direct confrontation, guiding her across the training field rather than trying to overpower her. After several exchanges, she realized she was moving exactly where he wanted. With one careful motion, Rowan disabled her weapon system using the environment instead of force. The simulation ended. Silence filled the arena. Kalis felt heat rise to her face. She had not lost because she was weaker. She had lost because she had underestimated him. Rowan offered a respectful nod and returned her weapon. He said nothing about victory. Later that day, whispers spread through the palace. Some warriors admired his patience. Others warned that humans fought differently, making them unpredictable. The Empress watched from above, her expression calm but thoughtful. She had invited Rowan for a reason. Over the next days, Rowan trained alongside different units. He focused on teamwork instead of individual glory. He encouraged warriors to communicate more and rely less on automated systems. Many resisted his ideas, arguing that their technology had always been enough. Kalis found herself watching him more often. She expected arrogance after his victory, yet he remained humble. He even praised her skill during private practice, offering small suggestions that improved her balance and timing. She did not know how to respond. No one had ever corrected her without trying to challenge her status. During a council meeting, reports arrived of strange activity near the Empire's borders. Several distant outposts had stopped responding. The council believed it was a minor issue, possibly technical failure. Rowan listened quietly before asking whether enemy forces might be testing their defenses. Some nobles dismissed his concern, saying no rival faction would dare challenge the Empire directly. The Empress did not dismiss him. She asked for further investigation. That evening, Kalis approached Rowan in the training yard. She wanted to understand how he had defeated her so easily. He explained that humans often focused on reading patterns rather than overpowering opponents. They learned to survive against stronger enemies by adapting quickly. She argued that strength and speed should always win. Rowan smiled slightly and replied that strength mattered, but understanding mattered more. Their conversation ended when alarms echoed across the palace. A damaged patrol ship arrived unexpectedly, carrying survivors from a border outpost. They reported an ambush by unknown forces using unfamiliar technology. The attack had been precise, targeting communication systems first. The council realized too late that the threat was real. Emergency meetings began immediately. Commanders prepared fleets and reinforced defenses. Rowan observed their plans carefully. He noticed that every strategy assumed their systems would function perfectly. When he suggested preparing for system failures, several commanders resisted again. Kayleigh felt tension building inside her. She remembered the simulation where Rowan had turned her own movements against her. She began to wonder whether their enemies might do the same. Training intensified across the palace. Mixed species teams practiced new tactics under Rowan's guidance. Some warriors complained about the changes, but results improved quickly. Units became more flexible, reacting faster to unexpected challenges. One evening, Kalis asked Rowan why he stayed calm even when others doubted him. He answered that humans learned patience through struggle. Their history forced them to survive against impossible odds. They valued persistence more than pride. She thought about his words, long after he left. Days later, a small-scale attack struck one of the Empire's outer defenses. Automated systems failed unexpectedly, causing confusion among defenders. A team trained under Rowan's methods adapted quickly, using manual coordination to hold the line until reinforcements arrived. News of their success spread rapidly. Some nobles began reconsidering their views about humans. Kalis stood on a balcony overlooking the city, watching ships moving across the sky. For the first time, she felt uncertainty about everything she had believed. The Empire was powerful, but maybe power alone was not enough. She remembered the way Rowan had avoided humiliating her after their duel. He could have earned respect by showing dominance, yet he chose restraint instead. The Empress approached quietly, standing beside her daughter. She asked what Kalis thought of the human now. Kalis hesitated before answering honestly. She said she no longer saw him as weak. The Empress nodded slowly. She explained that leadership required recognizing strength in unexpected forms. Humanity had survived countless challenges because they learned from failure instead of denying it. As night fell over the capital, alarms remained active, reminding everyone that war might be approaching. Rowan continued training soldiers late into the evening, guiding them with calm determination. Kalis watched from a distance, feeling something new growing inside her. It was not defeat, and it was not pride. It was respect, mixed with curiosity, and it marked the beginning of a change she had never expected. Far beyond the stars, unknown enemies prepared their next move, unaware that the Empire was already starting to evolve because of one quiet human warrior. The mood inside the Varelian capital changed slowly but deeply after the first border attack. The shining towers still reflected power and pride, but tension moved beneath the surface like an unseen storm. Patrol ships launched more frequently. Defense drones scanned the skies without pause. and commanders held meetings late into the night. Princess Kalis felt the change everywhere she went. Soldiers who once trained with confidence now practiced with urgency. Conversations were quieter. Even the nobles, who often argued about tradition and status, began listening more carefully to strategic reports. Commander Rowan continued working without drawing attention to himself. He moved between training units, offering guidance and observing how warriors reacted under pressure. He encouraged them to practice without relying fully on automated systems. Some still resisted, believing technology should always carry the burden, but recent events made others willing to try new methods. Kalis joined more of his sessions, though. She told herself it was only to monitor his progress. She watched how he spoke to soldiers, treating each one with equal respect regardless of rank or species. He asked questions instead of giving orders immediately. He listened to concerns before offering solutions. This confused her. Varelian leadership traditionally emphasized authority, yet Rowan built loyalty without demanding it. During one intense training exercise, a group of elite warriors failed repeatedly when their targeting systems were turned off. Frustration grew quickly. Rowan stopped the exercise and asked them to close their eyes and listen to their surroundings, instead of looking at data streams. At first they laughed, but he remained serious. Slowly, they began to notice subtle sounds and movements they had ignored before. When they repeated the exercise, their performance improved. Kalis felt both impressed and uncomfortable. She realized how dependent her people had become on perfection. Meanwhile, intelligence reports revealed more troubling news. The unknown enemy coalition was moving carefully, testing weaknesses without revealing full strength. Several small attacks targeted supply lines rather than major military bases. The pattern suggested careful planning. Rowan studied the reports quietly. He explained to the council that the enemy was likely studying their reactions, learning how the Empire responded to threats. Some commanders agreed, but others insisted their overwhelming power would discourage any real invasion. The Empress listened to both sides, but allowed Rowan to continue preparing mixed-species teams using his unconventional approach. Kalis noticed something else changing inside her. She no longer felt the same desire to challenge him openly. Instead, she wanted to understand how he thought. One evening, she asked him why humans valued adaptability so much. Rowan told her stories of humanity's history. He described early exploration, conflicts that forced rapid innovation, and environments that demanded constant learning. Humans survived not because they were the strongest, but because they learned quickly and cooperated when necessary. She found his stories fascinating. They lacked the heroic myths she grew up hearing, yet they felt honest and grounded. Days later, an emergency signal arrived from a nearby colony world. Enemy forces had launched a coordinated strike, disabling orbital defenses within minutes. The Imperial fleet prepared to respond immediately. Kalis volunteered to join the mission, eager to prove her readiness. Rowan was assigned as tactical advisor. The journey to the colony revealed the scale of the threat. Debris floated through space, and communication signals were fragmented. Automated systems struggled to adapt to unfamiliar interference patterns. Commanders relied on traditional strategies, but Rowan suggested dividing forces into smaller units to increase flexibility. Some officers hesitated, worried about losing centralized control. The Empress, observing through secure channels, approved Rowan's plan. As the battle began, chaos spread quickly. Enemy ships moved unpredictably, avoiding direct confrontation while targeting support vessels. Kalis piloted her craft with precision, following Rowan's guidance through encrypted communication. He directed units to focus on protecting vulnerable areas, instead of chasing every threat. The strategy worked. Slowly, the defenders regained control. During one critical moment, Kalis's squad faced an ambush. Her systems malfunctioned, leaving her temporarily blind to enemy targeting signals. Panic threatened to take hold, but she remembered Rowan's training. She relied on instinct and observation rather than automated alerts. She maneuvered carefully, escaping the trap and protecting her teammates. After the battle, survivors gathered inside the damaged colony station. Many soldiers praised Rowan's tactics, saying his approach saved countless lives. Kalis listened quietly, feeling both pride and humility. She approached him privately, admitting that his training had helped her survive. Rowan responded simply, saying she had always possessed the ability. She only needed to trust herself. The earlier tension between them softened into mutual respect. Back at the capital, the council debated the future. Evidence suggested the enemy coalition planned something larger. Some nobles argued for aggressive retaliation. Others feared overextending their forces. Rowan suggested preparing the population emotionally as well as militarily. He believed fear could weaken morale faster than any weapon. The Empress agreed and began addressing the Empire publicly, encouraging unity across species. Haley's noticed how Rowan avoided taking credit for successes. He redirected praise toward the teams themselves. This made soldiers trust him even more. One evening, she joined him on a high balcony overlooking the city lights. She asked him whether humans ever felt afraid. He answered honestly that fear was natural. Courage came from acting despite fear, not from ignoring it. She thought about her earlier arrogance and felt a quiet sense of embarrassment. She realized she had judged him without understanding him. Training continued day and night. Mixed teams developed strong bonds. Warriors learned to communicate using gestures and shared signals instead of relying solely on technology. Small victories during exercises built confidence. Then came the next shock. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet approaching from deep space. The scale was far greater than previous attacks. The enemy coalition was no longer testing. They were preparing for a decisive strike. The capital entered full alert. Citizens watched as defense ships formed protective formations around the planet. Energy shields activated across the city. Soldiers took positions along orbital platforms. Halis stood beside Rowan in the command center, feeling both excitement and fear. She asked him if they were ready. He looked at the incoming data silently before answering that readiness did not mean certainty of victory. It meant willingness to adapt when plans failed. As enemy ships entered range, strange interference disrupted communication networks. Automated targeting systems struggled again. Panic threatened to spread among less experienced crews. Rowan moved quickly, instructing teams to switch to manual coordination protocols they had practiced. His voice remained calm, guiding them step by step. Slowly, order returned. Kalis watched him closely, realizing how much confidence he inspired without raising his voice. She felt proud to fight alongside him. The first clash began with flashes of light across the stars. Enemy vessels attacked from multiple angles, forcing defenders to divide attention. Explosions shook nearby ships, and emergency signals filled the command channels. Despite heavy pressure, the mixed teams responded effectively. Human-inspired tactics allowed them to react faster than the enemy expected. Small victories began to appear across the battlefield. As the battle continued, Haley's understood that humanity's true strength was not physical power, but resilience and creativity. They turned uncertainty into opportunity. Far away, the Empress watched the battle unfold. She knew that her daughter was changing, learning lessons that could shape the Empire's future. The fight was far from over. The enemy fleet still held overwhelming numbers, and new waves of ships moved steadily toward the capital. Yet, for the first time, the Varelian forces did not rely only on tradition. They evolved in real time, guided by a human warrior who never sought glory but inspired transformation. Kalis felt a new determination growing inside her. She no longer wanted to prove humanity wrong. She wanted to prove that her people could grow stronger by learning from them. The next phase of the conflict would test everything they had learned. The battle above the Varelian capital did not slow down. Instead, it grew heavier with every passing moment. Enemy ships moved like shadows across space, appearing and disappearing between waves of interference that confused traditional targeting systems. Explosions flashed like distant lightning, reflecting across the glass towers below. Inside the command center, tension filled the air. Officers spoke quickly, exchanging information while trying to keep up with rapidly changing conditions. Many had never faced an enemy that adapted so quickly. For generations, the Empire's victories came from overwhelming strength and superior technology. Now, those advantages felt uncertain. Commander Rowan stood near the central display, watching battle formations shift constantly. He did not look overwhelmed. Instead, he focused on patterns hidden within the chaos. His calm presence slowly influenced those around him. Even experienced commanders began waiting for his input before making decisions. Princess Kalis stood beside him, following every movement carefully. She felt the weight of responsibility more than ever before. This was no longer a training exercise or a small skirmish. The survival of their world depended on every choice made in that room. Enemy ships launched a new type of attack that disrupted power flow across several defense platforms. Warning lights flashed red across the command screens. Some automated defense cannons shut down completely. Confusion spread among operators who relied heavily on those systems. Rowan immediately ordered nearby units to switch to manual coordination protocols. Teams that had trained under his guidance reacted quickly, relaying information using backup channels and visual signals. Slowly, the defense line stabilized. Kalis watched as mixed-species squads adapted faster than elite units who refused to change their methods. She understood now why Rowan emphasized flexibility. Strength alone could not win against an enemy that constantly evolved. A sudden explosion shook the structure as debris from a destroyed ship collided with an orbital platform. Emergency alarms echoed across the room. Casualty reports began appearing one after another. For a brief moment, fear spread through the command center. Some officers hesitated, unsure how to respond to the enemy's unpredictable strategy. Rowan spoke calmly, his voice steady. He reminded them to focus on protecting each other, rather than chasing victories. He adjusted fleet positions to create overlapping defense zones instead of isolated formations. The new pattern reduced losses and allowed damaged ships to retreat safely. Kalis felt admiration growing stronger inside her. Earlier, she saw him as an outsider. Now, she realized, he had become the center that held everyone together. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, enemy forces changed tactics again. Instead of attacking directly, they targeted communication satellites, hoping to isolate defending units from each other. Several squads lost contact with Central Command. Rowan anticipated this move. He had prepared decentralized leadership structures where small teams could operate independently. Even without direct orders, those teams continued fighting effectively, protecting key positions until communication returned. One of those teams included Kalis herself. She launched into space with a small strike group assigned to defend a vulnerable energy relay station. The moment they arrived, enemy fighters surrounded them from multiple directions. Her first instinct was to rely on advanced targeting systems, but interference blocked most signals. She remembered Rowan's words about trusting observation and teamwork. She instructed her team to move into close formation, sharing visual data manually instead of relying on automated analysis. The maneuver surprised the enemy pilots. Instead of panicking, the small group moved like a single unit. They defended the relay station long enough for reinforcements to arrive. After returning to the command center, Kalis realized how much she had changed. The pride that once pushed her to prove superiority had transformed into determination to protect others. As hours passed, exhaustion began affecting everyone, yet Rowan continued guiding teams with the same calm focus. He rarely raised his voice. Instead, he spoke quietly, giving clear instructions that helped others remain steady. The enemy fleet launched its largest attack wave yet. Massive ships moved toward the capital's primary defense shield, releasing energy bursts designed to overload the system. If the shield failed, the city below would become vulnerable, Commanders debated whether to concentrate all firepower on stopping the largest enemy ship. Rowan suggested a different approach. Instead of focusing only on the biggest threat, he proposed targeting smaller support vessels that maintained the enemy's coordination network. At first, some officers doubted the idea. Destroying smaller ships seemed less impressive than attacking the main enemy vessel. But the Empress trusted Rowan's judgment. This strategy worked. As support vessels fell, enemy coordination weakened. Their attacks became less synchronized, allowing defenders to regain momentum. Cheers echoed through the command center as pressure on the shield decreased. Kayleigh felt hope rising, but Rowan warned that the battle was far from finished. He believed the enemy still held a hidden advantage. His suspicion proved correct when a massive pulse of energy surged through space, disabling several defense arrays instantly. A new enemy flagship emerged from behind a field of debris far larger than any previous vessel. Silence filled the room as everyone realized the scale of the threat. The flagship began charging a weapon powerful enough to break through planetary defenses. Panic threatened to return. Rowan quickly analyzed possible responses. Direct attack would likely fail due to the ship's heavy shielding. Instead, he suggested a risky plan involving coordinated strikes from multiple angles, combined with precise timing. Haley's volunteered immediately to lead one of the strike teams. Before launching, she looked at Rowan. There was no arrogance in her expression now, only trust. He gave her a small nod, reminding her to stay adaptable no matter what happened. The strike mission pushed every pilot to their limits. Enemy fighters protected the flagship fiercely, forcing Kayleigh and her team to weave through intense fire. She remembered her earlier duel with Rowan, realizing that strategy and patience mattered more than speed alone. Following the plan, several teams attacked different sections of the flagship simultaneously. Instead of overwhelming force, they aimed to create confusion inside enemy systems. Small damages accumulated quickly, weakening the flagship's defense network. Finally, a narrow opening appeared in its shield pattern. Kayleigh led the final attack run. Her heart raced, but her mind remained clear. She trusted her training and her team. The strike landed successfully, disrupting the weapon's charge sequence. A massive explosion erupted from the flagship's core. The enemy vessel drifted helplessly, forcing surrounding ships to retreat temporarily. Cheers filled the command center, but Rowan remained cautious. He knew the enemy would not surrender easily. As the battle paused briefly, Kayleigh returned to the station. She removed her helmet, breathing heavily but smiling. For the first time since the conflict began, she looked at Rowan with gratitude. She understood now why her mother had trusted him. Far away, enemy forces regrouped, preparing for another attack. The defenders had survived the worst moment so far, but the war was not over. Inside the command center, the Empress appeared through a holographic projection. She praised the courage and unity shown by all species fighting together. Her gaze rested on Rowan and Kayleigh, recognizing how their partnership symbolized a new future. Kayleigh felt stronger than ever, not because she had proven herself superior, but because she had learned to grow beyond pride. The next stage of the battle would decide everything. The space above the Varelian capital remained filled with drifting debris and fading energy trails from the previous battle. For a short moment, silence returned, but no believed the war had ended. Sensors still detected enemy movements far beyond the outer defense line. The damaged flagship floated like a wounded giant, surrounded by retreating escort vessels. Inside the command center, exhaustion showed on every face. Officers leaned against consoles while technicians repaired systems damaged by interference. Despite fatigue, a quiet determination spread among them. They had survived the worst attack yet. Commander Rowan stood near the main display, studying new data streams. He knew the enemy would not accept defeat so easily. Their strategy suggested careful planning, and losing one flagship would only push them to change tactics again. Princess Kayleigh watched him closely. She felt different now compared to the day she first mocked him. The memory felt distant and almost unreal. Instead of seeing weakness, she now saw strength shaped by patience and experience. She realized how much she had learned from him, not only about combat, but about leadership and humility. A sudden alert broke the silence. Long-range sensors detected multiple warp signatures forming beyond the outer asteroid field. The enemy fleet was regrouping, and new reinforcements were arriving. The numbers were overwhelming. Murmurs filled the room. Some officers feared that their earlier victory had only delayed the inevitable. Rowan remained calm. He asked for a full tactical overview and began adjusting fleet positions. Instead of forming rigid defensive lines, he divided forces into flexible groups capable of moving quickly. He instructed commanders to expect communication disruptions and rely on independent judgment. The Empress joined the command center in person this time. Her presence brought renewed focus to everyone. She walked slowly across the room, observing the displays before standing beside Rowan. She did not question his decisions. Instead, she asked what he needed. Rowan requested permission to implement a risky strategy. Instead of waiting behind the planetary shield, he suggested meeting the enemy fleet at a distance, forcing them into unpredictable engagement zones, filled with debris and unstable energy fields left from earlier battles. Some officers worried this approach would expose their forces too early, but the Empress approved the plan, trusting the human who had already saved countless lives. Preparations began immediately. Kayleigh joined Rowan on the observation deck as fleets moved into position. She admitted quietly that she once believed leadership meant always appearing strong and certain. Rowan replied that true leadership meant accepting uncertainty and learning from others. She nodded, understanding more deeply than before. The enemy fleet arrived like a dark wave spreading across space. Their ships formed complex patterns designed to overwhelm defenders through coordination. But this time, the Varelian forces did not wait passively. Small strike groups moved quickly, drawing enemy vessels into narrow areas where their numbers became a disadvantage. Debris fields interfered with long-range targeting, forcing close-range engagements where adaptability mattered more than raw power. Battle erupted again. Explosions flashed across space as fighters weaved through dangerous environments. Mixed-species teams communicated using both technology and hand signals, adapting constantly. Rowan guided overall strategy while allowing individual commanders to make real-time decisions. Kayleigh led her squad with confidence shaped by experience rather than pride. She protected teammates, adjusted tactics instantly, and remained calm even when systems malfunctioned. As the fight intensified, enemy forces launched a surprise maneuver. Several ships broke through the outer defense line, heading directly toward the capital. Panic threatened to rise again. Rowan anticipated this possibility. Hidden defense teams moved into position, intercepting the attackers before they reached the planetary shield. The ambush caught the enemy off guard, forcing them into retreat. Slowly, the momentum shifted. One by one, enemy vessels withdrew or were disabled. The remaining fleet attempted to escape through warp corridors, abandoning their attack. Cheers echoed across communication channels as defenders realized they had won. The battle ended not with overwhelming destruction, but with controlled strategy and unity. Back on the capital world, celebrations began carefully. Citizens gathered in public squares, watching the skies clear of hostile ships. Relief replaced fear. Inside the throne chamber, a formal gathering was arranged. Nobles, commanders, and representatives from different species assembled to honor those who defended the Empire. Kayleigh stood among them, feeling both proud and humble. She remembered how she had once mocked Rowan publicly. Now she waited to see how history would remember him. The Empress entered the chamber, her presence commanding instant silence. She spoke about the battle, emphasizing that victory came from cooperation rather than dominance. She praised every species that fought together and highlighted how new ideas allowed the Empire to evolve. Finally, she called Rowan forward. He walked calmly into the center of the chamber, uncomfortable with attention but respectful. Many nobles watched him with admiration now instead of doubt. The Empress turned toward her daughter. Kalis felt her heart race, unsure what would happen next. Her mother spoke clearly, reminding everyone that growth required humility. She said that the future of the Empire depended on recognizing strength in unexpected places. Then she looked directly at Kalis. "On your knees," the Empress commanded. The room fell silent. Some nobles gasped softly, unsure whether the command was punishment or tradition. Kalis understood immediately. Among her people, kneeling could symbolize deep respect and acknowledgement of honor greater than one's own. Without hesitation, she stepped forward and knelt before Rowan. There was no shame in her posture, only sincerity. She spoke honestly, admitting that she had judged humanity without understanding it. She thanked him for teaching her that true strength came from adaptability, cooperation, and courage. The moment changed the atmosphere in the room. Many nobles realized the gesture represented a new era. Humanity was no longer viewed as inferior outsiders. They had become trusted allies. Rowan looked surprised but respectful. He gently asked her to stand, saying that victory belonged to everyone who fought together. His humility impressed the court even more. The Empress smiled slightly, seeing that her daughter had learned the lesson she hoped for. She declared a new alliance between species, encouraging shared training and cultural exchange. In the following days, the capital transformed. Mixed training programs became permanent. Human strategies blended with alien technology, creating stronger defenses. Soldiers from different worlds formed friendships built on mutual respect. Kaylee spent more time working alongside Rowan, no longer as a rival but as a partner. She continued learning from him while sharing her own knowledge of Varelian traditions. One evening they stood together on a balcony overlooking the city lights. The sky was peaceful again, filled with stars instead of explosions. Kalis reflected on how much she had changed. She realized that mocking him had come from ignorance, while kneeling had come from understanding. Rowan said quietly that humanity's greatest strength was never dominance, but the ability to inspire change. She agreed. Far beyond their world, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. Other civilizations began viewing humanity differently. Stories told of a human warrior who helped an ancient empire evolve, proving that resilience and humility could shape the future. The war had ended, but its lessons would remain forever. And in the heart of the empire, a princess who once mocked a human now stood beside him as an equal, ready to lead a new era built on unity and shared strength.